This morning, some Republicans from right here in Oregon are in Charlotte for the convention this week.
Yeah, joining us live this morning is Oregon GOP Chairman Bill Currier, who is in Washington, D.C. right now, fresh from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining us. Are we hearing the audio here?
Thank you, Jen and
Oh,
Emily.
there we
I
go.
was muted on my end. It's
Oh,
great to
no
be with you
worries.
this morning.
It happens. So we're, fresh off of night one. Now, what I thought was interesting was the Republicans decided not to adopt a platform for this convention and just kind of throw all their support behind the president and make it about that. How do you feel about that? And how did you feel about the first night of the convention and how it went?
It was energizing. The first night was in Charlotte. We're now in DC, as you mentioned. And even though it was scaled back due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the energy was palpable. I was surprised at how much energy could come out of 336 people, 6 from each state and from each of the territories.
Yeah, and as far as not adopting an official platform, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's just been a lot of things that have interrupted the ability to perform that process with the necessary committees and people getting together, and then changing of locations. And most of us on the Republican National Committee and most of the delegates would like to see President Trump's America First policy incorporated in some way into the platform so that we memorialize it and make it part of our agenda going forward. I hope to see that happen soon, despite the fact that it didn't happen at this convention.
Do you worry at all that by not adopting an official platform, it becomes much more a referendum on this president and less about some of the issues the Republican Party wants to see worked on in the next 4 years?
Well, no, not a referendum at all. It certainly makes it a little more difficult to. We have to remember that President Trump wants to reduce the size of the platform, make it simpler to digest, more basic instead of this 53-page document that is somewhat unwieldy to navigate. So even though the principles expressed in there are very good, when they're so long, it makes it harder for people to digest them quickly and easily. So he wants to reduce it to a few pages. And again, most people support that. I just think that we'll have to do it in a different process at a different time and really focus right now between now and November on the election. The platform itself is more of a long-term document. It doesn't really make a lot of difference between now and November.
Well, of course, looking at between now and November, I know we heard a lot of Republican leaders coming into the convention this week saying they wanted to strike a more positive tone than what we saw last week at the DNC. So how do you balance that, the positive tone that we want to put out while also focusing some attention on the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden?
Well, he's sort of missing in action. I mean, he's the Democrat presidential candidate in hiding, and what we're seeing already, starting with yesterday and last evening, is a lot of policy-focused messaging that is backed by human stories, how various types of policies affect people in America. And I think those human interest stories are very, very important because they illustrate the impact of the policies. And we didn't say that. We saw a lot of hate towards Trump from the Democratic National Convention, but at the RNC or the Republican National Convention, you're seeing stories that are based on policy differences. And that's what people should be voting for, is not just emotion, but emotion backed by policy differences.
I think we did see some hate directed toward Biden, the Biden-Harris ticket, Donald Trump Jr.
I didn't see the hate. I saw policy differences, but
okay. So what do you think as far as, we do have a sitting president while all of this stuff is going on. We've got a pandemic, we've got the unemployment situation, the civil unrest. How hard is it as a sitting president, the leader, while this is happening, how hard is it for him to make his case and to convince people to elect him to a second term?
Well, the Democrat leaders in the states, particularly the governors, have tried to weaponize the COVID-19 situation to harm the president's reelection chances by actually sacrificing their own constituents economically and with the violence. This could have been stopped. It's up to the governors of each state to implement policy that is in the best interest of their citizens, and they have not done that. purely in a partisan fashion to try to affect the outcome of the election by hurting Trump. This is it's horrible what the way they're approaching this. So President Trump has done everything on a federal level, we believe, to address the situation, from stopping travel early, which we believe saved thousands of lives, to supporting the governors throughout the country in whatever resources and materials and planning and organization, and in the case of Portland, as we've seen, providing federal resources to stop the violence instead of the feckless response that we've seen from Mayor Wheeler and Governor Brown, doing nothing and never denouncing the violence, not once denouncing the violence. This is not what the American people or Oregonians, excuse me, want to see. The first job of an elected official, their first duty under their oath of office, is to protect the safety and welfare of their citizens, and they're
Bill,
not
I'm
doing
so
it.
sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but we are almost up against a break here. Oregon GOP
Sure.
Chairman Bill Currier, thank you so much for your time and safe travels home.